Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm gonna talk about everything you need to own a hamster. If you love hamsters just like me, you're in the right place. On this channel, I am primarily creating hamster care content. So if you're interested, make sure to subscribe and like this video. And without further ado, let's get started. I real quick want to make a note. I'm going with the German hamster care. Hamsters may be small creatures, but they need a lot of space. Usually, all the cages sold for hamsters in pet stores are not suitable. The bare minimum cage size for a hamster is 741 square inches or 5,000 square centimeters. Hamsters run on average 5.5 to 6 miles a night. They do a lot of that on their wheel, but also a lot of that in their cage. If your cage is too small or your hamster is simply not happy with it, they will bite on the bars if you have a barred enclosure, and they will jump at the glass if you have an aquarium. Personally, I don't recommend getting wooden enclosures. They can be easily chewed up, and if they're somehow peed on, it's very difficult to get off. And if a hamster passes away, you gotta throw the whole enclosure away, so that's a big waste of money. Next thing you need is bedding. Hamsters are burrowers and they burrow a lot in the wild. For dwarf hamsters, you should at least provide 6 inches or 15 centimeters of bedding depth. For Syrian hamsters, you should at least provide 7 inches or 20 centimeters of bedding depth. Most barred cages can provide 6 to 7 inches of bedding depth, so ideally you should get an aquarium. If you're choosing out bedding, pine shavings and cedar shavings or any softwood shavings are not safe for hamsters. Some safe bedding options are aspen, Carefresh, and any other paper-based bedding. The next thing you need is a sand bath. If you didn't know, hamsters cannot be bathed in water. So a sand bath is a good way to clean off excess oils on their coat. If you're getting sand, look for sand and not dust. Dust is used for chinchillas, and if hamsters inhale the dust, they will get a respiratory infection. Depending on what hamster species you have, you will get different minimum amounts of sand. For example, Roborovskis come from a natural sandy place, so they need at least 1/3 of the cage being sand. For the other hamster species, they usually only need a tray of sand. A sand bath is a must-have for any hamster species. I use children's play sand for my hamster sand baths. Real quick thing I wanna add, I sift it and I bake it. If your bag says it's heat treated, that means it's sterilized. But if it doesn't say anything of that, you gotta bake it. To make the sand safe for your hamster, you gotta bake the sand at 266 degrees Fahrenheit or 130 degrees Celsius. And do that for 30 minutes. But back on the sand. Children's play sand is a good option for cheap sand. If you're getting chinchilla sand in the US, I don't recommend getting it because it's very dusty. If you live in Europe, I would get chinchilla sand maybe, but I would rather get sifted children's play sand. Some recommendations are reptile sand without calcium, and of course children's play sand. The next thing you need is a wheel. If you're getting a wheel, there are a number of factors to keep in mind. I do not recommend getting the flying saucer type of wheel, only the traditional wheel. The size of the wheels also matter. If you buy a too small of a wheel, you may get your hamsters to curve. If you get too small of a wheel, you may get your hamster's back curving and cause a spine injury. That's why there are of course minimum sizes for wheels. For Roborovski dwarfs, you need at least 20 centimeters or 8 inches in wheel size in diameters. For the other dwarf hamsters, you need at least 9 inches or 25 centimeters of wheel size. And for Syrian hamsters, you need at least 11 inches or 27 centimeters. Make sure to get a wheel with a solid running surface, because if you get barred wheels or mesh wheels, your hamster will get bumblefoot. Bumblefoot is an inflammation on the pads of your hamster's feet. It will be very painful to walk on these. Some hamsters even lost limbs with barred and mesh wheels because they got stuck in the mesh. And the thing you of course also need are hamster toys. The first thing I want to talk about for hamster toys is a multi-chamber hideout. Multi-chamber hideouts have of course multiple chambers, and these chambers mimic how a hamster would live in the wild. This hideout is a bit more optional, but if you go with the German care, it is required. This hideout I got for 10 euros, which is about 12 United States dollars. Wow. The next toy you need is a hideout. Hamsters are prey animals, so they will easily get scared or spooked. And if they are scared, they have a place to hide, such as a hideout. You won't believe me how much I have seen my hamsters sitting in here, not just to sleep, but also to eat something. The German hamster care says that plastic hideouts and plastic toys are not safe for hamsters because they can be chewed on, and that's not safe. And also, plastic is bad for the environment. So that's why there are wooden toys. This is an example of a wooden toy. If you're getting wooden toys, your hamster can play on it and also chew on it. This tunnel, for example, is made from pine. Mind you guys, solid pine is safe for hamsters. Personally, I wouldn't recommend getting pine toys. I'm also not getting more pine toys because now I know they are not really safe. so please use Pine at your own risk. And guys, these are not the only hamster toys that exist, there are way more on the market. Another sort of toy you need are chew toys. Hamsters and other rodents have continuously glowing teeth. Hamsters and other rodents have continuously growing teeth, especially the incisors at the front. That's why they need toys to bite on. And these need to be wooden toys because plastic is really not safe to chew on. These are some examples. This is one a little bit closer, and this is another one, kinda looks like a baby toy. Of course, provide a lot of chew toys but also a lot of wooden items to play on. The next thing you need is a food bowl, a water bowl, or a water bottle. Personally, I don't use food bowls because I think scatter feeding is way better to provide enrichment for hamsters. If you don't know what scatter feeding is, it's basically just sprinkling the seed mix all over the cage. This will provide more enrichment for your hamsters since they also need to forage for food in the wild. If you're getting water bottles or water bowls, I recommend getting water bowls. The spout of the water bottles are very difficult to clean, so they can build up on bacteria. And sometimes water bottles can even leak or just have no water. And for water bowls, they are easy to clean and they always have water. Of course, if you refill the bowl. And of course, every living animal needs food. Click on the card somewhere on the screen to find more about hamster diets. I will real quick go over the most important things. For protein, you need at least 17 to 19%. Ideally, you should get 21% or 20% for growing pups under 6 months. For fat, you need 6 to 7%. And for obvious reasons, too much fat is very bad, too little fat can also be as bad. So personally, I would just get 6%. For fiber, you should go somewhere from 6 to 15%. If you see hamster food around 15% of fiber, that's usually a bit too high. These high fiber diets usually contain hay. Hay is something that is very unsuitable for hamsters. A brand that I know that creates hay diets for hamsters is Oxbow. Don't get any food for your hamsters from Oxbow. The food from Oxbow contains too much hay, and your hamster will slowly die from malnutrition if you keep feeding these hay diets. But I have nothing against Oxbow. Oxbow makes great food and other stuff for other pets, but not for hamsters. The most recommended mix on the market right now is 50% of the Higgins Sunburst and 50% of the Missouri Rat and Mouse pellets. The next thing you need are treats. I tend to use natural treats such as vegetables or mealworms. Of course, you can make your own treats and that way they will be healthier than the store-bought ones. Treats you can use for taming or just to reward your hamster. Cleaning solution. The store-bought pet-safe cleaning solutions are pet-safe but usually a bit expensive. To clean my own hamster cages, I use 50% vinegar and 50% water. That's a very popular homemade solution. I definitely recommend you using it since it's pet-safe and also very cheap. If you watch my How I Clean My Hamster Cages video, you can see that I use it. The next thing you need is a kitchen scale. If your hamster loses a lot of weight or gains a lot of weight, you should go to the vet. The next thing is a playpen. I don't use my playpen since my hamster really doesn't like playtime. My hamster will get very nervous and also groom himself all the time. But if your hamster is okay with floor time or playtime, I recommend you getting one. The last thing you need to get is a travel carrier. Hamsters have been known to chew out the cardboard carriers that you get from a pet shop. By the way, I don't recommend you getting hamsters from a pet shop since they are treated very poorly. But back on the topic, a travel carrier is very convenient to take your hamster to the vet, bring them home, or just to travel with them. But if you're traveling a bit more long distance, you should bring a bigger cage. If you have any more things you can add to this list, make sure to comment it down below. I would love to hear you guys' opinions. For more of these hamster care videos, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I see you guys next time.